Asperges me. Ostende nobis Domine misericordiam tuam. Et sanctam tuum nobis. Domine, exaudi orationem meam. Et clamor meum sancte venia. Dominus vobiscum. Et cum spiritu tuo. Oremus. Exaudi nos, Domini Sancti Pater Omnipotens Aeterne Deus, et mitere digneris sanctum angelum tuum de celis, qui custodiat, foveat, protegat, visiter aquae defendent omnes habitantes in hoc tabernaculo, per Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen.
Firmamentum meum, et refugium meum, et liberator meus. Gloria Patri et Filio, et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio, et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Circumdederunt me, gemitus mortis, dolore
exaudi et Dominus vobiscum. Oremus. Kyrie eleison. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, oremus. Preces populi tui quasimus, Domine clementer exaudi, ut qui justitiae pro peccatis nostris affigimur, pro tui nominis gloria misericorditer liberemur, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum filium tuum, qui tecum vivet in regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Lectio Epistolae Beati Pauli Apostoli ad Corinthios. Fratres, nescitis qui in stadio currunt, omnis quid incurrunt, sed unus accipit bravium. Sic currite ut comprehendatatis, omnis autem qui in agone contendit ab omnibus sed abstinent, et illi quidem et ut corruptibilium cornum accipiant, nos autem incorruptum. Ergo igitur sint curo, non quasi in incertum. Sic pugno non quasi eriem verbeans, sed castigo corpus meum, et in servitutem redigo. Ne forte cum aliis predicaverum ipse reprobus efficiae. Nolo enim vos ignorante, fratres, quoniam patres nostri omnis sub nube fuerent, et omnis mare transierunt, et omnis in Moise baptizati sunt in nube et in mare, et omnes eandam escam spiritualem manducaverent, et omnis eumdum potum spiritalem biberunt. Bibeant autem de spirituale, consequente eius Petra, Petra autem erant Christus, sed non in pluribus eorum bene placium est Deo.
Adiutor in opportunitatibus, in tribulatione, sperat in te, qui noverunt te, quoniam non te reliquis querent est Domine, quoniam non in finem oblivio erit pauperis, patientia pauperum non peribit in aeternum. Exurge Domine, non prevalea homo. De profundis clamavi te, Domine, Domine exaudi voce mea. Fiat aures tue intendentes, in orationem servitui. Si iniquitates observaveris, Domine, Domine qui sustinebit. Quia apud te propitiatio est, et propter legem tuam sustinuite, Domine.
Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, sequentia sancti evangelii, secundum Matteum. Gloria tibi, Domine. In illo tempore dixit Iesus discipulis suis parabolam hanc, simile est regnum celorum homini patri familias, qui exiit primi mane conducere operarios in vinam suam. Conventione autem facta cum operaris ex denario diurno, misit eius in vinam suam. Et egressus circa hora tertiam, videt alios dantes in foro ostiosos, et dixit illis, ite et vos in vinam meam, et quod justiam fuerent abo vobis. Ili autem abierunt. Iterum autem exiit circa sextum et nonum orum, et fecit similiter. Circa undeciam vero exiit, et invenit allostantes, et dicit illis, qui hic statis tota die ociosi. Dicunt ei, quia nemo nos conduxit. Dicit illis, ite et vos in vinam meam. Cum sero autem factum esset, dicit Dominus vine procuratori suo, voca operatios et rede illis mercedem, incipiens a novissimis usque ad primos. Cum venescent ergo quia circa undeciam oram venerant, accepierent singulos denarios. Venientens autem in prime, arbitrati sunt quod plus essent accepturi, acceperunt autem et ipsis singulos denarios, et accipientes numerarbant adversus patrem familias dicentes. Hi novissime una hora facerunt, et pares illos nobis fecisti, qui portavimus pondus diei, et estus. Et ille respondem unie orum. Dixit, amici, non facio tibi in iuriam, nonne ex denario convenisti mecum. Tolle quod tuum est, et vade, volo autem et huic novissimo dare, sicut et tibi. Aut non licit mihi, quod volo facere, en oculus tuos nemquam est, quia ego bonus sum. Sic erant novissimi primi, et primi novissimi. Multa enim sunt vocati, pauci vero electi. Please be seated. A lesson from the Epistle of Blessed Paul the Apostle to the Corinthians. Brethren, know you not that they that run the race, all run indeed, but one receiveth the prize. So run that you may obtain. And everyone that striveth for the mastery refraineth himself from all things. And they indeed, that they may receive a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible one. I therefore so run, not as at an uncertainty. I so fight, not as one beating the air, but I chastise my body and bring it into subjection, lest perhaps when I have preached to others, I myself should become a castaway. For I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that our fathers were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all in Moses were baptized in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. And they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. But with the most of them, God was not well pleased. Please stand. The continuation of the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. At that time, Jesus spoke to his disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven is like to a householder who went out early in the morning to hire laborers unto his vineyard. And having agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And going out about the third hour, he saw others standing in the marketplace idle. And he said to them, Go you also into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just. And they went their way. And again he went out about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, and did in a like manner. But about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing. And he saith to them, Why stand you here all day idle? They say to him, Because no man hath hired us. He saith to them, Go you also into my vineyard. And when evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard saith to his steward, Call the laborers and pay them their hire, beginning with the last, even to the first. When therefore they were come, they that came about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first also came, they thought they should receive more. And they also receiveth every man a penny. And receiving it, they murmured against the master of the house, saying, These last have worked but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal to us, that have borne the burden of the day and the heat? But he answering said to one of them, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst thou not agree with me for a penny? Take what is thine and go thy way. I will also give to this last, even as to thee. Or is it not lawful for me to do what I will? Is thy eye evil because I am good? So shall the last be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. Thus are the words of today's Holy Gospel. Please be seated. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. I'm sure many of you have heard these particular readings and heard them many times about all these people who go out and bear the day's burden, and they get paid equal. And, well, you know, they were kind of grumbling because the guy wanted to do what he wanted with his own money, and he wanted to be free. And the ending, for me, is one of the ones that just makes my hair stand up. For many are called, but few are chosen. And so here's this landowner who's going out and hiring all these workers. And there's these workers that don't go out until the 11th hour, and he says, why are you standing here all day? Well, nobody's hired us. How many times did that landowner go to them? How many times was he there? And maybe they didn't go. Maybe they didn't think he meant them. It's hard to say because it's a parable that Jesus is bringing about. But many are called into the kingdom of God, and few are chosen. And so all of us, and I'd say because you're here, show forth a great gift of God that he's called us. And he's called us to be here to worship. And when we do that, there's this thing, many are called, but few are chosen. How many of us is it just simply, well, I live the right life and I put all the checks in the block and everything's okay? Really? In St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, it ends with, he's talking about the people who were with Moses. But with most of them, God was not well pleased. Where are our hearts when it comes to living the faith? Is it something we're going through the motions? It's a great place to start. But if that's all you do for all your life, you're missing the boat. You're called, but you haven't been chosen. When Mary said, "May it be done to me according to your word," her whole life was in to whatever God was asking of her. What is God asking of us? What really is God's will for each and every one of us? Where is that vocational calling by which our lives are radically changed and oriented to God? And is it just because we're here at Mass that, well, I guess we've already done all that? So then that means, okay, so we're all going to go to heaven. Or is it possible for someone like myself, the priest here, to actually blow it and get fed up with everything? And it's a challenge for us all. Many are called. How many people all throughout the world is God calling into that communion with Him? And you see it in the lives of the saints, the deep prayer life they had, the way in which they gave themselves to reach out to the poor, the hungry, the sick, the hospitalized, how they set up hospitals in places that no one would ever set up a hospital in, and they took care. Miraculous healings happened. There's so many stories that are all throughout the history of the church about what the saints who were all in for God and what they did. And you can, one of my favorites, imagine St. Mother Teresa. She's from Europe, and so she's at her little home thinking, well, what am I supposed to do, Lord? And everything that she does, what marked her a little bit different was she was all in for the Lord. And then she gets moving, then she finally starts up her religious order, and how she had to go through a huge turmoil getting out of the current religious order, starting up a new one, getting the permission from Rome, and all those happy types of things. And what did she do? She went to go sweep dirt floors in people who lived in holes in the ground and bring the light of Christ to them. And only God would take a poor beggar woman from India and bring her into the halls of Congress to talk to them and bring the light of the gospel into some of the darkest holes in all of human history. Are you being called to that? Are you being called to give your life in that same way? Where is God going to draw you to? Because so many times, including myself and my own vocation, when I knew God was calling me, my first reaction was, yeah, right, forget it. I'll never do that. And as God kept calling, I finally got so frustrated to the point where I said, okay, fine, I'll do it, but you better give me a good job if it doesn't work. He didn't give me a good job, He gave me vocation. And I've been happier ever since. There's a powerful thing about what is God really calling us to do? As husbands and wives with families, how are your kids getting to heaven? Where's the great grace that God has given you to raise up saints? Where's the great grace that God gives us to go out and proclaim the gospel in every single situation? Do we actually look for opportunities while we're at the checkout stand to say something about God? Or is it just somebody at the other side and they're just going, hi, how you doing? Have a nice day. And there's just this common dialogue that we go through that has no meaning at all. Do we encounter the other person and bring the Lord to them in our words, in our actions, in everything? St. Paul was saying about running this race, I don't run as if to an uncertainty. He's got his eyes on the goal. He's going that thing, and he's going to go the whole distance as best he possibly can. And he's always moving in that direction. And then he says, so I fight, not as one beating the air, but I chastise my body to bring it into subjection, lest perhaps I preach to others and I myself should become a castaway. In this time of Septuagesima, we have this time to prepare for the season of Lent. Are we going to? Are we going to follow this direction of what we've been called into, and then to say, okay, Lord, what do I have to do to chastise my body? And maybe that'll help, because if we do that, then we begin to control our own passions, our own desires, all those things we can't live without. But even more, can you chastise your own will? Can you give up doing what you want? Can you give up your habitual reactions and actions toward things to reconform them to the will of God? Just one little example that I myself fight terribly. After I get done with my prayers and praying in the office and all that, and I'm sitting there and I got 5 minutes or so while I'm in the chapel, I notice, without even thinking, my hand is grabbing the phone and trying to clear up some messages or something. Why? Where's God's will? When I pray, do I really connect with God? And then immediately after that, connect to devices or connect to other things or worry about the political situation? Or do I just get to spend time with God? What do you do when you finish praying? Are you really done praying? Or is it just, well, what's the next distraction I need to move to? Let this time be a time of great purification where our wills and all those things that we do in habitual responses in some way get reoriented to God. Because when we do this, now we're in the race. The devil will come to attack you in that. Good, you're doing it right. You got attacked. Don't give in to the attack. Give in to Christ. Give in to, like Mary, through her immaculate heart, was all in for God. And let us all, in this time of preparation, start figuring out those things that my will is not in conformity with God's will. My heart is divided between this and that. So that husbands and wives might be in greater unity. Families might have greater peace. And that all the believers might show forth the greater example of the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. And so let us not grumble then like those people in the parable who said, hey, I should get more because I was here all day long. Come on, I've been faithful, Lord. I've done all the right things. I've got all the check in the blocks. Was he pleased? Or is he pleased with the conversion of our wills? Mary said, may it be done to me according to your word. Let us allow that word to be in our hearts, so that, like Mary, our souls may truly magnify the Lord, and that all people will see his kingdom on earth. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Credo in unum Deum.
Patrem omnipotente, quantor in cieli et terrae, visibilium omnium et invisibilium, et in unum Dominum Iesum Christum, Filium Dei unigenitum, et ex Patre natum, ante omnia saecula, Deum de Deum, lumen de lumine, Deum verum, de Deo verum, genitum non factum, consubstantiale Patri, equem omnia facta sunt, qui propter nos homines, et propter nostram salute, descendit in celis, et incarnatus est, et Spiritus Sancto, ex Maria Virgine, et homo factus est, crucifixus etiam canonis, sub Pontio Pilato, passus et sepultus est, et resurrexit tertia die, secundum Scripturas, et ascendit in caelum, sedet ex terram Patris, et iterum venturus est cum gloria, judicare vivos et mortuos, cuius regni non erit figis, et in Spiritum Sanctum Dominum, et qui vivificantem, qui ex Patre Filioque procedit, qui cum Patre et Filio Simon adoratur, et cum glorificatur, qui locutus est per prophetas, et unam sancta, catholica, et apostolicam ecclesia, confiterum unum baptisma, in remissionem peccatorum, et expecto resurrectionem mortuorum, et vitam venturis seculi.
Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo. Oremus.
Bonum est confiteri Domino, et salve Domini tuo altissime.
Orate fratres. Omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Dominus vobiscum. Et cum spiritu tuo. Sursum corda. Habemus ad Domino. Gratias agamus Domino Deo nostro. Dignum et justum est. Vere dignum et justum est. Acem et salutare. Nos tibi semper et ubique gratias agere. Domine, Sancti Pater, omnipotens aeterne Deus, qui cum unigenito Filio Tuo, et Spiritus Sancto, unus est Deus, unus est Dominus, non in unius singularitate personae, sed in unius Trinitate substantiae, quod enim de tua gloria revelante te credimus, hoc de Filio tuo, hoc de Spiritus Sancto, sine differentia discretionis sentimus, ut in confessione veri sempiternique deitatis, et in personis proprietas, et in essentia unitas, et in majestate adoretur a qualitas. Quam laudant angeli atque archangeli, cherubim quoque ac seraphim, qui non cessant clamare custodie, una voce dicentes. We peccatoribus. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Oremus. Preceptus salutaribus moniti, et divini institutione formati, audemus dicere. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis
Domini non sum dignus. Domini non sum dignus. Domini non sum dignus.